Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Film Geek. Today I'm going over 6 criminally underrated science fiction movies. Now the way I'm ranking these films are by my own personal opinions. So I'm not basing these off of any kind of Rotten Tomatoes score or any kind of Metacritic, anything like that. These are completely my opinion. But I think that a lot of people will agree that every one of these movies is a complete and absolute underrated gem in the science fiction community. And why 6? Well, because I couldn't decide on 5, and I didn't really want to do 10, so you're gonna get 6. Okay, let's start this list off with number 6, and that is 2002's Equilibrium. Equilibrium is starring Christian Bale, and it's the story of a future world where all feelings are outlawed. And that means, like, no art, no writing, no photography, nothing that can invoke feelings. In fact, every day at specific time periods, all citizens of the world have to shoot themselves up with this drug that blocks all of their feelings. Christian Bale plays one of the security officers, police officers, what have you, that's supposed to find these people who are not taking their drugs or who are, hiding art or literature or something like that. And he hunts them down and exposes them, kills them, judges them, however you want to look at it. Okay, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Film Geek, we've heard that story before. Let me tell you something that makes this movie a wee bit different than most of your oppressive government type films, and that is gun kung fu. Yes, you heard me right. Gun kung fu. One more time, because I don't think you really understood what I said, and that is gun kung fu. I mean, come on, just say it out loud. How freaking cool does gun kung fu sound? What more do I need to say about this movie? It's starring Christian Bale in an early performance. There's gun kung fu. You take kung fu, but you have guns. It's like John Wick, but Jackie Chan mixed in. I mean, the action is intense. This movie is not one you watch and go, wow, that was a very deep and realistic science fiction story that focuses most on the science and less on the crazy action. Now, this movie is pure popcorn magic. That's all this film is. This is not pretentious. This is not over-the-top dramatic sci-fi. This is pure fun popcorn in the bucket, stuffing it in your mouth, watching Christian Bale pull off kung fu moves with guns. Number 5 is 1998's Sphere. The first thing I want to say about Sphere is the cast. Samuel Jackson, Dustin Hoffman, Sharon Stone. I mean, wow, what a great cast. And this movie bombed. I mean, it bombed big time. Okay, so what is the story? Check this out. So, a group of scientists are sent to explore a spaceship that's found at the bottom of the ocean. Here's the kicker. They think the thing has been down there for 300 years. So, Dustin Hoffman and his merry group of scientists go down there to find out what in the heck is going on with this spaceship. And what they find is this big sphere, and, well, wackiness ensues. Alright, so likes about this. First off, great blend of horror and sci-fi. I love it. It's got some great scary, creepy moments. It's got some really good science-y, fiction-y kind of moments. It really has a lot of great stuff. You've got Samuel Jackson, Dustin Hoffman, you have Sharon Stone. I mean, this movie really should have done a lot better. I believe there was an oversaturation at the time of movies that were focused on things that were going on underwater, and it just got overlooked by general audiences. Number 4 is going to be diving into the more B-movie genre, and that is 1989's Robot Jox. Robot Jox. Dude, alright, here we go. In a distant future, war is made illegal because a massive world war almost wiped out every living human being on the face of the planet. So they said, you know what? Maybe war is a bad idea. So, instead of war, when there's a dispute, they use robot jox. Who are the robot jox? Well, the robot jox are pilots of giant mech robots. Yes, this is a giant robo movie. Yep, from the 80s. This is gonna be sweet. This movie focuses on some amazing, for the time, practical effects. You can debate whether or not they aged well. I feel like for the time period and what they were able to pull off, these special effects aged great. Yeah, okay, there's a few scenes where you can see the wires operating the puppets. Yeah, alright, sure. But, that all aside, this movie was way ahead of its time, the story was great, and it also delivered this line.
I called, you know, squash you both, like bags.
No, you're a lot of things, Alexander, but you're not a coward. I'm gonna get in this thing, and I'm gonna kick your ass!
First off, some of the things that make this movie completely awesome. It's directed by B-movie legend Stuart Gordon. If you don't know who Stuart Gordon is, look him up, guys, because I'm sure if you watch a B-movie, you have seen one of his movies. He crosses over into all genres. You can find him in a comedy, you can find him in horror, you can find him in science fiction. Stuart Gordon is a legend in B-movie cinema. So what do I love about Robot Jox? Because I'm going to say love about Robot Jox. First off, fairly simple. It's the name. I mean, come on, Robot Jox. How cool is that? And then let's also focus on the fact, like I said, great stop animation. The story itself, it's fun. This is, again, a popcorn flick. Don't take this thing serious. Just kick back and enjoy. This movie is super fun from the beginning to the end. Okay, now we're going to take a turn for the more serious aspect of science fiction, and that is 1997's Gadaga. So Gadaga takes place in a world where genetics are super important on who you are. And what I mean by genetics are the building blocks, of course, that make us who we are. Whether or not we're going to have heart disease, whether or not we're going to develop cancer, all of these things can be solved if you have enough money. Yes. So, what happens? Mostly the privileged class gets to have all the glory and fun. So, in this world, one man decides that he's going to kick it to the system. He's considered an inferior, which means his genetic code isn't as good as other people, which makes him less important to society. So he's left to do things like, well, clean up after everybody and so on and so forth. He then, with the permission of another man, assumes his identity and becomes one of the privileged class. Okay, it sounds like a pretty complicated story, right? Well, it is. There's also a murder mystery, and it looks like he's going to get found out, and so on and so forth. And what is he trying to do? Well, he's trying to go into space. The main character, played by Ethan Hawke, has a dream to go into space, but he's considered inferior genetically because of a heart condition that may or may not kill him in his 30s. Well, so anyways, it doesn't, and he decides to prove everybody wrong and figure out a way to go into space. Some of the things that make this movie cool is the fact that it's a science fiction film, but the sets are actually very minimal. Really, the only kind of special effect, if you even want to call it that, is every so often you see a rocket go up. Everything looks very bland in this world. It's very, very just earth tones, dark colors. It's very drab, and I feel that that was done on purpose to kind of make you feel kind of depressed when you watch this movie. Next up at number 2 is 1995's Strange Days. Strange Days is starring Ralph Fiennes and Angela Bassett, and it tells the story of a world where it's the year 2000, okay? It's the New Year's Eve, the year 2000, and there's this crazy cyber drug that allows you to see people's memories. And so if somebody's wearing this head thing, they can record the last moments of whatever, either, a sexy moment, or in some cases, a robbery or death. They record this, and people play it, and it makes them feel all the adrenaline and so on and so forth, and so it's a drug. So Ralph Fiennes plays a guy who was at one point in time a police officer, but now he deals in these memories, and he gets tied into this whole conspiracy with drugs and the police and blah 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 blah. So what I'm trying to say is this is a very good science fiction thriller. Yeah, it's dated because it's the turn of the millennium, the year 2000, and none of this stuff happened, but just think of it as some kind of alternate dimension where in the year 2000 this really happened. The movie's great. It's a lot of fun. It's got good action. It's got good drama. It's well acted. It is the definition of a fantastic hidden gem. Okay, my last movie that I'm going to talk about, my number one film and my most horribly, criminally underrated science fiction films of all time. What is my number one? What is the most underrated science fiction film of all times? And that is 1985's Enemy Mine. Enemy Mine is starring Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid. So the story of Enemy Mine is the story of two enemies who crash land on a very, very inhabitable planet and basically have to learn how to get along or they die. So what makes this movie really awesome is the fact that, damn, the acting is great. The chemistry between Louis Gossett Jr. and Dennis Quaid is fantastic. This movie delivers on so many levels. Number one, I'm going to talk about the special effects. Now, for its time period, these special effects look solid. I still think they hold up really great today. The dogfight scenes that take place in space, the absolutely gorgeous matte paintings that you see in the scenery on the planet where they crash land, the scenery, the cinematography is gorgeous. The planet itself is like its own character. The planet could easily kill them as much as, well, they could kill each other. Louis Gossett Jr. plays his character amazing. The amount of emotion that he can emit while wearing just pounds, I'm assuming, of makeup, this amazing makeup that's in this movie. And Louis Gossett Jr. has this ability to just completely emit the perfect emotions while wearing all of this stuff and not being able to use, really his own face. It's great. And not only that, but Dennis Quaid has just amazing comedy timing.
Shit. Shit. What do you mean, shit?
No, solid.
Solid, I'll show you. Huh? Not solid.
So the comedy in this movie is spot on, the drama in this movie is spot on, the action in this movie is spot on, the special effects in this movie is spot on. So what happened? I don't know. This movie was one of those movies that we used to watch all the time when I was a kid. I do mean that. My parents love this movie, my sisters love this movie, we all really dug this movie. Just back on Louis Gossett Jr. for one last thing, and that is not necessarily the language that was used by the Drac. That's the aliens in the movie, they're called the Drac. The voice that he uses, the thing that he does throughout the whole movie, he just kind of made that up. He said it was a silly voice that he would do at parties to make people laugh, and so he incorporated it into his character, and it works great. But most of the Drac language is actually Russian backwards. Okay guys, that brings us to the end of another one of these Film Geek videos. If you like what you saw here today, go ahead and hit that like, please subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell for notifications so you know when I put up another one of these fantabulous videos. And of course, as I always say folks, keep watching movies. You know I'm gonna.